Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. The night color died. Before memory had shape, before stories learned how to breathe, there was a night when the world exhaled, and color vanished. Not in a scream, not in a blaze, but like a candle blown out by someone who had waited centuries to do so. Dawn arrived in silence. Mountains turned to pale stone. Rivers gleamed like old silver. Flowers stood like ghosts, shape without soul. And no one remembered red. Not the way it pulsed like the heart of summer. Not the way it clung to autumn leaves like last breath. Not the way it lived in fire and blood and sunset. Blue faded next, then gold, then every shade that once wove dreams into flesh. Only white, gray, and the thin memory of moonlight remained. They named it the Pale Age. But elders whispered a truer name behind closed doors. The Fox's Night. A girl with a forbidden memory. In the village of Awn Hollow, shaded by washed-out hills and silver-barked trees, lived a girl named Leora. Where others accepted the gray sky like a law, Leora questioned it. She felt color without seeing it, dreamed blue without knowing why. Something in her blood remembered light. Sometimes she would sit beside the river at dusk, though dusk was only a darker shade of pale, and she would close her eyes. Behind her eyelids, she could almost see a sky like endless sapphire, a berry stain on fingertips, a fox with eyes bright as dawn fire, and always the piercing pain of longing, a memory trying not to die. Her mother once caught her staring at the horizon as if it might bloom. "There is nothing out there," she said gently, combing Leora's dark hair. "This world is the color it was meant to be." But Leora only whispered, "No, it was more once. I can feel it." Her mother sighed, not in disagreement, but in fear. Because those who remembered color were said to be cursed by it. The night of the blue tear. The change came on a windless night. Leora dreamed, but this time the dream had weight. She stood in a forest where every branch dripped with lost hues, as though rainbows had melted and frozen mid-fall. The ground shimmered like frost made of light, and at the center of the dream, half shadow, half moonfire, stood a fox. Its fur was crystal, sharp and delicate as broken ice. Within its body, colors twisted like trapped spirits. Flashes of emerald, garnet, cerulean, gold. But each flicker was weak, as if caged. One eye held the color of the deepest ocean, a blue so real it hurt. The other burned like a sunrise no one remembered. The fox didn't move at first, simply watched her, as if deciding whether she was a memory or a mistake. Then its voice entered the world not as sound, but as color. Blue equals remember, gold equals follow. The meaning bloomed in her bones like spring after 1,000 winters. Leora reached out, trembling, but the dream shattered like thin ice beneath a footstep. She woke gasping, night sweat cold on her skin, and there on her pillow lay a shard of blue crystal. Not dream stuff, not figment, real. It pulsed once when she touched it, a heartbeat of color in a colorless world. And in that moment she knew, the fox had not stolen every color. It had lost one, and she was holding it, The journey into the pale forest. Before dawn, Leora wrapped the shard in cloth and stepped into the fading world. The sky hung like unlit silver. No birdsong, no rustling leaves. The silence felt heavy, as if sound had weight and someone had taken it. The forest at Awn's edge was not forbidden, just feared. Children claimed shadows moved there without wind. Hunters said snow sometimes fell in summer, that colors flickered deep inside the woods, like dying stars beneath branches. Leora walked anyway. Each step deeper felt like stepping into stalled time. The air smelled of frost and memory. Her heartbeat echoed loud, too loud, as if the forest had no sound of its own. Sometimes she thought she saw movement in the corner of her eye, a tail, a shimmer, a ripple of stolen hues. But when she turned, only silver leaves waited. She pressed on. She walked until her legs shook, until doubt gnawed like winter wolves. She wondered if she was following a dream, if the world had always been gray, and she was the one who was wrong. Then the shard glowed, a soft pulse, like a lantern no one lit. She felt it tug her deeper, and the deeper she went, the less dead the world seemed. The bark of trees grew less pale, a ghost of brown. Ferns held a whisper of green, as though color remembered itself through her. The forest was waking, or warning, the glade of silent snow. She reached a clearing that felt like held breath. Snow in the middle of spring, not falling, just there, like memory anchored in earth. Mist curled low and calm. The air shimmered faintly, as if color was trapped beneath ice. And in the center stood the fox. No dream, no illusion, real. Crystal fur fracturing moonlight, feet silent on snow, eyes ancient as creation. The world held still. Leora stepped forward, slowly, like approaching a prayer. The fox tilted its head, as though seeing her across centuries. Its tail shimmered, thousands of colors flickering under the surface like drowning flowers. Leora's heart thudded like thunder without storm. She did not speak, words felt too small. Instead, she held out the blue shard. A wind surged, cold, gentle, endless, like the breath of a forgotten god. Shadows swirled around the fox, and for a moment she saw it not as a thief, but as a being carrying a burden too heavy to hold. It did not steal color. It was cursed to contain it. The fox stepped toward her. One paw, another, and when its nose touched her palm, blue exploded, not violently, like dawn blooming after eternal night. Trees shivered green for a heartbeat. Snow flushed faint lavender. The sky remembered a faint vein of gold. Then the light collapsed inward, sucked back into the fox like breath into lungs. The glade dimmed again, but the world had changed. Leora had seen color, and color had seen her. The echo of color still trembled inside the forest. A heartbeat of a world trying to remember itself. Leora stood in the breath of the glade, snow unmoving beneath her feet. The air hushed as though afraid to disturb what had happened. In her palm, the shard no longer glowed, but her skin still tingled with the memory of blue. She looked at the fox, no longer just a legend, no longer just the thief of color, but a creature bound by its own brightness. Prison made of beauty. The fox's body shimmered like frozen rainbows. Colors shifted beneath the surface. red trying to bloom, green pressing like leaves hungry for spring, gold flickering like trapped sunrise. But they could not break through. Leora felt the weight of something ancient, not malice, sorrow. Following the fox stepped past her, silent as falling ash. It did not look back, but she knew it wanted her to follow. Not by command, but by story. Some destinies do not speak. They walk ahead and trust you will understand. Leora followed. The forest changed as they moved. Where the fox passed, a faint shimmer trailed behind it, ghost-light echoes of the colors imprisoned within. Trees leaned, as if remembering wind and green and summer. When the fox stopped, the shimmer died. When it moved, the world flickered back awake. "You're not stealing color," she whispered. "You're holding it alive, the quarry of broken hues." They reached a hollow carved into the earth, filled not with stone, but with shattered color. Fragments of red quartz, blue frost, violet like twilight bruises. The remains of a world before pale. The fox approached the crystals and bowed. A crack of blue light spilled from its chest, soft as breath. Leora felt truth like thunder. It wasn't a thief. It was a vessel. Color wasn't gone. It was broken and locked inside this creature so it wouldn't die forever. The first color awakens. The shard pulsed in Leora's hand, calling to the broken hues. She pressed it to a fragment of shattered azure. The world inhaled, then blue burst outward like dawn over ocean. For one heartbeat the ravine shimmered with endless sky, wings, waves, horizon, memory alive. Then it all collapsed back into the fox like tide pulling home. The fox trembled with pain and beauty both. The shadow that watches. A whisper. Not wind, something older. On the ridge above them stood a figure shaped like man, made of absence itself. Where he stood, even shadow died. The fox snarled, the first true sound of its soul. Color flared inside it like birds battering glass. "You woke what should have slept," the void being said. He was the one who shattered color, the one who chained it inside the fox. The choice. He stretched out his hand. "Give me the shard. Let the world forget color. Peace comes from absence." The fox stepped between them, a trembling shield of light. Leora's fist burned blue. Hope, danger, destiny. If she freed color, the fox might break. If she surrendered, color would die forever. The void whispered, "Choose," and the world held its breath. The world did not breathe. Leora stood between two forces, one made of color, fragile and imprisoned, the other made of absence, patient and hungry. The fox trembled, its crystal fur burning with trapped radiance, while the void figure remained still, as if motion itself was beneath him. The ravine felt like a lung that forgot how to inhale. Leora's fingers tightened around the shard. Its blue glow ran through her veins like memory rediscovered. The fox watched her, waiting, pleading without words. Color wanted to live. Shadow wanted silence. Leora had to choose. But a choice made in fear is only another chain. She stepped forward. The void's head tilted slightly, amused. "A hope. Even after centuries, it still crawls back to the surface." His voice was smooth, effortless, without echo, not sound but removal of sound. like someone opening a door and letting silence walk out. Leora swallowed. You broke the world. The figure almost smiled. No, child. I saved it from drowning. His arm rose. The air warped. Color around the fox dimmed violently. Red suffocating. Green shrinking into memory. Gold fading to ash. The fox staggered. Leora stepped in front of it without thinking. The void laughed, soft, terrible. You protect the cage? She shook her head. I protect what it carries. The shard blazed. Blue exploded outward like tidal memory, wrapping Leora, the fox, the ravine in a pulse of forgotten sky. The void recoiled only a fraction, but enough. His outline flickered like a candle losing faith. The river of color that wasn't meant to wake. Leora fell to one knee. Power flooded her, too vast, too ancient for mortal flesh. She saw things. Black small square, the first sunrise ever cast. Black small square flowers that burned with impossible red. Black small square oceans dark and endless, dreaming in blue. Black small square gold that tasted like birth. Black small square green that sounded like forgiveness. Color wasn't just light. Color was memory. Every shade was a story. Every hue was a god's breath, a dream's pulse, a life lived. And the fox was the vessel holding them until the world was ready to remember. Leora gasped. She was remembering, not as history, as inheritance. The fox pressed its forehead to her hand. She understood. Color was never stolen. It was sheltered, because something worse than absence once tried to swallow it whole. And now it wanted to try again. The birth of the color bearer. The void moved first, a ripple of non-existence cutting through air. Leora didn't step back. She lifted the shard. Blue surged not outward this time, inward. Into her. Into bone, dream, memory. The fox screamed, crystal fracturing like frozen glass breaking under light. Color inside it tore like birds escaping storm cages. Red, green, gold, blue. They hit Leora like creation striking flesh. She didn't become color. She became the one who remembers it. The fox collapsed to the ground, panting with relief, lighter, emptier, freed just enough to breathe. Leora stood glowing. Not bright, warm, alive. Her eyes were no longer the dull silver of pale-aged children. One burned blue like the shard. The other flickered gold like dawn behind mountain stone. The void whispered, horrified, "A bearer!" She smiled, tired, trembling, but unbroken. Color belongs to the world, not to a prison, not to silence. The void roared not sound but collapse. Trees wilted, rocks cracked, snow turned to pale dust. He lunged, the shattering of the first chain. Leora raised her hand and memory erupted. Blue vast as ocean, red fierce as battlefield sun, green patient as forests before language, gold old as gods. They crashed together in a wave of remembrance. The ravine bloomed, grass rippled emerald, shattered amethyst hues healed into violet stone. Fox fur shimmered like prism-born flame. The void staggered back, not defeated, but forced to retreat. He dissolved like ink in water, whispering as he faded. You unlocked the first chain, but color is still bound. Break them all, and you break the world with it. Then he was gone. Silence dropped, not empty but waiting. Leora fell to her knees, chest heaving. The fox approached, weak but unchained enough to nuzzle her palm with gratitude. Color inside it was dimmer, because some of it now lived in her instead. She had become a vessel too. Not prison. Guardian. The fox bowed. Leora smiled. They were no longer hunter and mystery. They were two halves of a broken rainbow, and the world needed both. The journey begins. Snow melted into shimmering dew around them. The forest breathed again for the first time in an age. But only a fragment, because this was one hue, one shard, one chain broken. 5 more glowed faintly in the distance of fate. Red, green, gold, violet, silver, each held by danger ancient as shadow. Leora rose. The fox stood at her side, no longer escaping her, no longer alone. Together they walked beyond the hollow of broken hues, toward deeper pale lands where color slumbers, and darkness waits for regret to bloom. The world whispered behind them like a page turning, and the night remembered blue. The frostbound forest carried a new pulse now, slow, fragile, like a heart learning to beat again after centuries of stillness. Leora felt the shift with every step. Not just snow softening, not just wind returning, but memory unfreezing. The fox walked ahead, weakened but shimmering with purpose. Its colors no longer thrashed like trapped birds. They moved like rivers, slow and deliberate, as though the creature finally tasted relief. Leora kept one hand near its shoulder, not to lead it, but to share the weight. The colors she carried vibrated beneath her skin. Blue strongest, gold flickering faintly, red awakening like an ember yet unclaimed. It felt like carrying pieces of a sleeping god. "We freed one chain," she whispered. "We can free the rest." The fox bowed its head, companion, not beast. And the world, once pale beyond memory, waited to wake. The path of silent blossoms. Snow faded to soft lavender as they reached a grove of trees shaped like bent spines. Their bark held silver stillness. Their branches wept frozen petals. But deep inside, hidden like breath before birth, color stirred. Then came sound, not through ears but through memory. A forgotten melody trembled across the grove like spring thawing centuries of frost. Leora felt tears gather. The forest was remembering itself. She closed her eyes. Within her, blue swirled like ocean tides. Gold flickered like sunrise behind cloud. And then green stirred. Leaves sprouted. Only a dozen, but the first green the world had seen in generations. The song faded. The song faded. The forest exhaled. Not victory proof. The temple of the red heart. The grove broke into stone. Rib-like pillars curved like the bones of an ancient beast. At their center stood a temple, half-buried, shaped like flame. Red answered her presence. Her pulse accelerated, fast, loud, hungry. The fox hesitated. Red was want, war, blood, desire, the flame that births and consumes. To claim red was to let fire enter bone. Leora inhaled and stepped through the threshold. Torches ignited as though memory itself set them alight. Images covered the walls. Black small square suns like molten crowns. Black small square flowers blooming from blood. Black small square lovers burning worlds just to touch. Black small square a woman crowned in fire, eyes like falling stars. Leora shuddered. This wasn't history warning. Red had destroyed once before. But a world without red is a world without heartbeat. She reached the altar. Flames sliced her vein, ribs, spirit, not pain becoming. Red flooded her. War, love, hunger, courage, birth, burn. When she opened her eyes, her right iris glowed crimson. The guardian of ember. A shape emerged from smoke. A bird forged of obsidian feathers, ash-fire breath. A guardian not of chains, of worth. Its voice cracked like bone lightning. Do you carry hunger or restraint? Leora steadied the red in her chest with the blue in her soul. Fire balanced by water, desire tempered by memory. Balance held. The bird bowed. Chain 2 is broken. Crimson shot into the sky. Red awakened. Part returned to the fox. Part remained in her, a living ember. The shadow returns. Night fell, but stars flickered with faint color. Moonlight bruised violet. The void being walked the horizon, swallowing shadow. 2 chains undone, he hissed. You would unwrap creation? Leora stood unshaken. I'm not unwrapping it. I'm waking it. Wake color, the void replied. Wake ruin. He vanished into ash. The bearer of color walks. For hues still slept. Green beneath mountains. Gold beneath forgotten sky. Violet under old dream. Silver below death's river. The fox pressed to her hand. Neither servant nor master equal. They walked onward. Forest glowed faint with reborn memory. And night whispered like a page turning. The world remembered red. Dawn rose pale but no longer colorless. Not like before. Not the washed-out ghost mornings On Hollow had grown used to. Now the horizon held the faintest pulse of rose and cool sapphire, like a memory learning to breathe again. The world was still gray mostly, but no longer dead. It was awakening. Leora felt the shift in her bones. The colors she carried, blue for memory, red for will, pulsed softly beneath her ribs like twin stars buried in flesh. The fox walked at her side, fur fractured with sunrise hues, still weakened but growing stronger with each chain undone. Only 4 remained, and the land itself began guiding them, subtle but sure. Winds whispered green through silver leaves. The ground hummed faint gold beneath ice. Even shadows tasted of violet dreaming. Color was calling home. They reached the foothills by dusk, jagged marble peaks that pierced the sky like ribs of a fallen god. Mist wound between them like memory searching for a body. The fox halted. Leora's breath shook. Something ancient pulsed beneath the stone. Slow as roots under winter, deep as forgotten earth. Green, but not gentle. This was not the green of meadows or leaves. This was the green of growth without mercy. Forests swallowing ruins, vines cracking marble, life fed by death. Leora braced herself. The fox stepped forward and the mountain opened, stone parting like skin. A passage spiraled downward, roots glowing like veins. Leora entered without hesitation. Some choices are not made, they are remembered. The cave was alive. Walls throbbed emerald. Roots curled like sleeping serpents. Moss glittered like dew that smelled like spring. The air tasted green, wild, sharp, hungry. The deeper they descended, the louder the heartbeat of earth grew. Not sound, pressure. A pulse inside bone. Grow. Expand. Consume to bloom. Blue steadied her, memory anchoring thought. Red warned, desire could devour. She laid her palm to stone. Balance, she whispered. Not hunger. The pulse relented, life does not yield, but it listens. At the mountain's core lay a cavern vast as the sky, a cathedral of roots. In its center stood a being of bark and bone, a green guardian. Its eyes were feral spring. Color-bearer. It thundered. One chain freed from memory, one from fire. Now life demands a vow. I do not seek green to conquer, she said, only to wake the world. Vines crawled across her wrist, testing. Green tasted her heartbeat, found hunger and restraint. Blue inside her calmed. Red inside her burned steady. She was balance. The vines loosened. Green surged, filling her bones not like fire, but like roots learning sunlight. Her veins glowed emerald. When she opened her eyes, they flashed a third color. Green, vast and unstoppable. The cavern trembled. A bloom of emerald light erupted skyward, the third chain undone. Above, forests awakened. Leaves burst from skeletal trees. Grass cracked frost like rebellion. The fox brightened. Emerald fragments joining crimson and blue within its crystal fur. Three colors lived now. Blue memory. Red will. Green life. Night fell, but stars flickered lavender. The void being appeared, not distant, but near. Three chains broken, it murmured. Do you think creation grateful? Leora stood unshaken. The world died when color vanished. It cannot live as shadow. And if color returns too strong? His voice was cold wind. If desire burns cities? If life devours nations? If memory drowns time? Then we learn balance, she answered. Not silence. His form flickered, sorrow or rage. He vanished into violet horizon. For hues remained. Gold beneath forgotten skies. Violet beneath dream. Silver beneath death's river. And beyond them the final light. The fox brushed her hand. Equal now, not prisoner nor guide alone. Together they walked into the violet night. And the night remembered green. Night no longer felt dead. Where silence once ruled, wind carried hints of color. Sky painted with memories of blue, ember red, newborn green, and the distant tremble of violet. This was no longer the pale age. The world had begun to breathe again. Leora walked with the crystal fox at her side, fur radiant with fractured light. She held for hues within her now. Blue memory, red will, green life, violet dream, and beyond them waited two more. Gold creation, silver rest. The final journey had begun. The world dissolved into thought. Trees melting into silhouettes of memory. Snow turning to violet breath. Leora and the fox stepped into dream itself. Here reality was not built. It was waiting to be chosen. The violet keeper greeted her in shifting starlight. You carry what was lost. But dream precedes all. It whispered. Futures flooded her mind, worlds burning, blooming, breaking. She nearly drowned in possibility. But blue steadied her. Red anchored her. Green rooted her. She reached for one future balance, not ruin. Violet merged with her, blazing like prophecy behind her eyes. Dawn rose brighter than centuries remembered. A sun trapped behind horizon like a dream refusing to open. Gold was not light. Gold was beginning. Leora called it, and the sky erupted. Sun poured through clouds. Rivers glimmered like molten dawn. Creation returned, not blinding but holy. Gold entered her chest. The world warmed. 5 chains broken. Night fell softly, almost lovingly, as they reached a river shining like still moon metal. No reflection, no ripple, only memory of endings. The silver guardian waited, voice ancient as quiet. Will you allow even color to rest? Leora bowed. Life needs sleep as dawn needs night. I accept the end. Not as prison, but as peace. Silver flowed through her mind, cool, steady. It ringed the colors like moonlight around planets. Balance. Birth of the color bearer. The fox howled, no longer in suffering, but release. Color shattered across the sky. Blue deep as memory. Red bright as desire. Green endless as life. Violet wild as dream. Gold vast as creation. Silver gentle as endings. The world bloomed, not overwhelmed, not devoured, balanced. Leora stood carrying every shade ever born. The fox, freed at last, walked beside her. No longer a prison, but an equal. And with dawn in her voice, she spoke. Let there be color. The universe obeyed. Thank you for listening to Sleep with Myth.